have asked myself what I wish I had known at my own graduation, and what important lessons I have learned in the 21 years that have expired between that day and this. I have come up with 2 answers. On this wonderful day when we are gathered together to celebrate your academic success, I have decided to talk to you about the benefits of failure. And as you stand on the threshold of what is sometimes called real life, I want to extol the crucial importance of imagination. These may seem quixotic or paradoxical choices, but bear with me. Looking back at the 21-year-old that I was at graduation is a slightly uncomfortable experience for the 42-year-old that she has become. Half my lifetime ago, I was striking an uneasy balance between the ambition I had for myself and what those closest to me expected of me. I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to do, ever, was write novels. However, my parents, both of whom came from impoverished backgrounds and neither of whom had been to college, took the view that my overactive imagination was an amusing personal quirk that would never pay a mortgage or secure a pension. I know the irony strikes with the force of a cartoon anvil now, but... So they hoped that I would take a vocational degree. I wanted to study English literature. A compromise was reached that in retrospect satisfied nobody, and I went up to study modern languages. Hardly had my parents' car rounded the corner at the end of the road than I ditched German and scuttled off down the classics corridor. I cannot remember telling my parents that I was studying classics. They might well have found out for the first time on graduation day.
Viu? Ela no caso, estava dizendo como se estivesse no moderno, no contemporâneo, naquilo que dentro desse curso que não garante tanta grana das linguagens, da língua, seria o futuro mais certo, mas não, ela foi para os clássicos. E aqui sempre que eu digo, onde vocês vão estudar para tirar o melhor de vocês? É nos clássicos. Porque se os clássicos se tornaram clássicos, alguma coisa eles têm que os outros não têm.
All the subjects on this planet, I think they would have been hard put to name one less useful than Greek mythology when it came to securing the keys to an executive bathroom. Now, I would like to make it clear in parenthesis that I do not blame my parents for their point of view. There is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction.
Cara, por exemplo, ela diz pobre ali, mas certamente em relação ao padrão brasileiro, era uma família classe média baixa, né? Que não fez faculdade e tal, mas Inglaterra. Eu nunca culpei meus pais por nada, porque assim, né? Eu realmente era pobre, meu pai mecânico, minha mãe dona de casa, né? Então, realmente, eu não tive, talvez, esse tipo de cobrança. Se eu tivesse trabalhando, ganhando salário, já seria uma vitória, cara, para minha família. E, graças a Deus, todos os filhos conseguiram isso. Né? Eu fiz a faculdade primeiro, depois a minha irmã, meu irmão. Então, assim, ó, eu acho que é tão assim... Ó, culpar os pais, né? Ela diz ali tem prazo de validade, tem mesmo, né? No caso, eu nunca precisei fazer isso. E vocês?
The moment you are old enough to take the wheel, responsibility lies with you. What is more, I cannot criticize my parents for hoping that I would never experience poverty. They had been poor themselves, and I have since been poor, and I quite agree with them that it is not an ennobling experience. Poverty entails fear and stress, and sometimes depression.
Vocês viram que o discurso dela é extremamente coerente e realista, né? Quando a gente vê uma escritora que ficou famosa por falar do mundo fantástico, do mundo mágico, né? Quanto o discurso dela é pé no chão.
It means 1,000 petty humiliations and hardships. Climbing out of poverty by your own efforts, that is something on which to pride yourself. But poverty itself is romanticized only by fools.
Perfeito, né? Aqui, ó, é a beleza em si é romantizada apenas pelos touros. E como eu vejo isso aqui no Brasil, né? Cara, o pobre é pobre não porque quer, o pobre é pobre não porque acha legal ser pobre. É que tem todo um contexto social que coloca ele ali e que dificulta ao máximo que ele mude essa situação.
What I feared most for myself at your age was not poverty, but failure. At your age, in spite of a distinct lack of motivation at university, where I had spent far too long in the coffee bar writing stories and far too little time at lectures, I had a knack for passing examinations, and that, for years, had been the measure of success in my life and that of my peers. Now, I am not dull enough to suppose that because you are young, gifted, and well-educated, you have never known heartbreak, hardship, or heartache. Talent and intelligence never yet inoculated anyone against the caprice of the fates.
Aqui uma outra frase também muito impactante, muito importante, né? Talento nunca privou ninguém dos caprichos do destino. Não é porque você é talentoso que vai dar tudo certo.
And I do not for a moment suppose that everyone here has enjoyed an existence of unruffled privilege and contentment. However, the fact that you are graduating from Harvard suggests that you are not very well acquainted with failure. You might be driven by a fear of failure quite as much as a desire for success. Indeed, your conception of failure might not be too far removed from the average person's idea of success. So high have you already flown. Ultimately, we all have to decide for ourselves what constitutes failure. But the world is quite eager to give you a set of criteria if you let it. So I think it fair to say that by any conventional measure, a mere 7 years after my graduation day, I had failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that failure is fun. That period of my life was a dark one, and I had no idea that there was going to be what the press has since represented as a kind of fairy tale resolution. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended, and for a long time, any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a stripping away of the inessential.
Então ela não romantiza pé no chão, mas agora ela traz essa que o fracasso é o despojamento do que não é essencial. No fracasso a gente perde o essencial, mas perde também o que não é essencial. Pelo menos eu compreendo assim. E agora sim foi aquele momento de só escutar, porque foi um momento aí dela realmente contando a sua vivência.
I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena where I believed I truly belonged. I was set free, because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life.
Então, no fracasso que ela teve, meio que pela necessidade, né, a motivação de dar a volta por cima, de sair do fundo do poço e de se dedicar àquilo que ela realmente queria, que a gente sabe o que é, né, o livrinho aí do nosso bruxo e tantos outros que vieram depois.
You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
Viver como se não tivesse vivido, isso até me lembra Racionais. Eu duvido, né, que a J.K. Rowling tenha escutado Racionais, né, mas sei lá, cara, esse mundo é tão louco, né? Mas é aquela velha questão, viver pouco como um rei ou viver muito como um Zé. Aqui, o que ela está dizendo? Viver como Zé é fracassar por omissão, tá ligado?
Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way. I discovered that I had a strong will, and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubies. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are, ever after, secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself, or the strength of your relationships, until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift, for all that it is painfully won, and it has been worth more than any qualification I ever earned. So given a time turner, I would tell my 21-year-old self that personal happiness lies in knowing that life is not a checklist of acquisition or achievement. Your qualifications, your CV, are not your life, though you will meet many people of my age and older who confuse the two. Life is difficult and complicated and beyond anyone's total control, and the humility to know that will enable you to survive its vicissitudes. Now you might think that I chose my second theme, the importance of imagination.
Então, antes dela começar o segundo tema, né, falando da importância do fracasso, vocês sabem, por exemplo, contar um pouquinho da minha vida, da minha história. Ok, garoto pobre, aquelas coisas ali que eu já falei, mas sempre muito estudioso, muito bom, sempre muito perfeito nessa coisa de estudar. E então eu consegui a bolsa na faculdade, a bolsa no mestrado, e estava vivendo disso ali meus 24 anos, 25, e achei que tranquilamente eu conseguiria também a bolsa no doutorado, pós-doutorado, e seguir essa vida acadêmica cheia de títulos, que não são exatamente a nossa vida, e muito menos salvam a nossa vida ou qualquer coisa do tipo. Estava muito estressado naquela época, não era fácil, mas era um caminho lógico a ser seguido. E eu tive o meu primeiro fracasso, posso dizer assim, embora, assim como ela falou para os alunos de Harvard, esse fracasso para muitos seria um sucesso, foi quando não consegui a bolsa para o doutorado e não conseguiria pagar também, né? Então, aquilo ali, quando eu fracassei e não consegui a bolsa, eu, no princípio, me senti muito mal e etc. Mas eu pude me dedicar àquilo que, acima de tudo, eu gosto. Eu gosto muito mais de ensinar filosofia do que estudar filosofia. Esse é um fato, né? Eu gosto muito mais de ser professor do que ser filósofo, propriamente dito. Ser os dois, para mim, é a perfeição. Mas se eu tivesse que escolher um ou outro, escolheria, eu acho, ser professor. Aquele pequeno fracasso fez com que eu me dedicasse ao lecionar, passei em 2 concursos públicos e hoje tenho a minha vida, de certa forma, organizada e segura. Não que eu não queira fazer o doutorado, quero sim e acho importante para mim, para a própria filosofia nacional, um dia me doutorar, mas eu não tenho mais aquela cobrança de antes, porque aquele pequeno fracasso me fez descobrir a minha verdadeira vocação.